Hi. Okay, finally got this set up, I think. Let's try that. Okay, I'm going to start with a reading by Abdu'l-Baha. He's talking about the people of the world. They must treat with and behave toward all the governments, nations, communities, kings, and subjects with the utmost sincerity, trustworthiness, straightforwardness, love, and kindness. Even they must make hopeful a bloodthirsty enemy, show sympathy with the utmost faithfulness and honor to the perfidious unjust. Know the ill-wisher as the well-wisher, and torment not the sinner with reproaches. Should they become the targets of 1,000 arrows of persecution, they must challenge it with love and friendship, and treat everyone with purity of purpose and kindness. So, this is extremely challenging. We're told that we have to behave toward everybody, no matter who it is, with the utmost sincerity, trustworthiness, straightforwardness, love, and kindness. Even a bloodthirsty enemy, even the perfidious unjust, and that we shouldn't torment the sinner with reproaches. So, tell me, how are we doing living up to these things? Then he goes on and he says, O ye friends of God, show ye an endeavor that all the nations and communities of the world, even the enemies, put their trust, assurance, and hope in you. That if a person falls into errors for 100,000 times, he may yet turn his face to you, hopeful that you will forgive his sins. For he must not become hopeless, neither grieved nor despondent. This is the conduct and the manner of the people of Baha. This is the foundation of the Most High pathway. Ye should conform your conduct and manners with the advices of Abdu'l-Baha. And that's from the Tablets of Abdu'l-Baha, page 435. I'm going to go on now, and we'll do some prayers. And today is the 13th, Sunday. And welcome. Let's do some prayers. I think I'm going to say the tablet of Ahmad. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what the best position is for this iPhone that I'm recording on. Okay. He is the King, the all-knowing, the wise. Lo, the nightingale of paradise singeth upon the twigs of the tree of eternity. With holy and sweet melodies, proclaiming to the sincere ones the glad tidings of the nearness of God. Calling the believers in the divine unity to the court of the presence of the generous one. Informing the severed ones of the message which hath been revealed by God, the King, glorious, the peerless, guiding the lovers to the seat of sanctity and to this resplendent beauty. Verily, this is that most great beauty foretold in the books of the messengers, through whom truth shall be distinguished from error, and the wisdom of every command shall be tested. Verily, he is the tree of life, that bringeth forth the fruits of God, the exalted, the powerful, the great. O Ahmad, bear thou witness that verily he is God, and there is no God but him, the King, the Protector, the Incomparable, the Omnipotent, and that the one whom he hath sent forth by the name of Ali was the true one from God, to whose commands we are all conforming. Say, O people, be obedient to the ordinances of God, which have been enjoined in the Bayan by the glorious, the wise one. Verily, he is the King of the messengers, and his book is the mother book. Did ye but know? Thus doth the nightingale utter his call unto you from this prison. He hath but to deliver this clear message. Whosoever desireth, let him turn aside from this counsel. And whosoever desireth, let him choose the path to his Lord. O people, if ye deny these verses, by what proof have ye believed in God? Produce it, O assemblage of false ones. Nay, by the one in whose hand is my soul, they are not and never shall be able to do this, even should they combine to assist one another. O Ahmad, forget not my bounties while I am absent. Remember my days during thy days, and my distress and banishment in this remote prison. And be thou so steadfast in my love that thy heart shall not waver, even if the swords of the enemies rain blows upon thee, and all the heavens and the earth arise against thee. Be thou as a flame of fire to mine enemies, and a river of life eternal to my loved ones, and be not of those who doubt. And if thou art overtaken by affliction in my path, or degradation for my sake, be not thou troubled thereby. Rely upon God, thy God, and the Lord of thy fathers, for the people are wandering in the paths of delusion, bereft of discernment, to see God with their own eyes, or hear his melody with their own ears. Thus have we found them, as thou also dost witness. Thus have their superstitions become veils between them and their own hearts, and kept them from the path of God, the exalted, the great. Be thou assured in thyself that verily he who turns away from this beauty hath also turned away from the messengers of the past, and showeth pride towards God from all eternity to all eternity. Learn well this tablet, O Ahmad. Chant it during thy days. and withhold not thyself therefrom. For verily God hath ordained for the one who chants it the reward of 100 martyrs, and a service in both worlds. These favors have we bestowed upon thee as a bounty on our part and a mercy from our presence, that thou mayest be of those who are grateful. By God, should one who is in affliction or grief read this tablet with absolute sincerity, God will dispel his sadness, solve his difficulties, and remove his afflictions. Verily, he is the merciful, the compassionate. Praise be to God, the Lord of all the worlds. So, I was finding that a little bit difficult to concentrate on. So I'm going to say some more prayers, maybe a little shorter. Sometimes I have the concentration for the long prayers, but sometimes it's really hard. Blessed is the spot, and the house, and the place, and the city, and the heart, and the mountain, and the refuge, and the cave, and the valley, and the land, and the sea, and the island, and the meadow, where mention of God hath been made and his praise glorified. That's by Bahá'u'lláh. Here's another quote by Bahá'u'lláh. Intone, O my servant, the verses of God that have been received by thee, as intoned by them who have drawn nigh unto him, that the sweetness of thy melody may kindle thine own soul and attract the hearts of all men. Whoso reciteth in the privacy of his chamber the verses revealed by God, the scattering angels of the Almighty shall scatter abroad the fragrance of the words uttered by his mouth, and shall cause the heart of every righteous man to throb. Though he may at first remain unaware of its effect, yet the virtue of the grace vouchsafed unto him must needs sooner or later exercise its influence upon his soul. Thus have the mysteries of the revelation of God been decreed by virtue of the will of him who is the source of power and wisdom. And here's a prayer by Abdu'l-Baha. And I'm saying this especially for our friends who are struggling with issues of survival. Lord, pitiful are we. Grant us thy favor. Poor, bestow upon us a share from the ocean of thy wealth. Needy, do thou satisfy us. Abased, give us thy glory. The fowls of the air and the beasts of the field receive their meat each day from thee, and all beings partake of thy care and loving kindness. Deprive not this feeble one of thy wondrous grace, and vouchsafe unto this helpless soul thy bounty. Deprive not this feeble one. Give us our daily bread, and grant thine increase in the necessities of life, that we may be dependent on none other but thee, may walk in thy ways, commune wholly with thee, and declare thy mysteries. Thou art the Almighty and the loving and the provider of all mankind. Abdu'l-Baha. Here's a prayer by Abdu'l-Baha. Glory be unto thee, O my God. I supplicate unto thee, O thou my helper. I invoke thee, O thou my refuge. I utter to thee my agonies, O thou my physician. Entreat thee with all my heart, my soul, and my spirit, saying, O my God, verily the gloomy night hath fallen upon all regions, and the clouds of ignorance have extended in all directions. The people are immersed in the darkness of surmise, and the tyrants are sunk in the depths of brutality and lawlessness. The red glare of the burning fire is flashing forth from the netherworld, roaring, ominous. Voices are rising from the cruel, destructive, and terrible armaments. Every region is crying out with its dumb, secret tongue, nothing that I possess hath benefited me, and power and strength are taken away from me. Verily, O my God, the lamps of guidance are extinguished. The fire of animosity is enkindled. Wrath and antipathy are spread abroad, and provocation and maliciousness are disseminated upon the face of the earth. Yet I see only thy wronged followers, who are crying at the tops of their voices and summoning the people, hasten ye toward affinity, hasten ye toward faithfulness, hasten ye toward generosity, hasten ye toward guidance, hasten ye toward union, hasten ye to behold the light of the world, hasten ye toward love and prosperity. Hasten ye toward peace and reconciliation. Hasten ye toward the law of disarmament. Hasten ye toward harmony and success. Hasten ye toward cooperation and mutual help in the path of guidance. Verily, these wronged ones do sacrifice themselves with infinite joy and happiness for the sake of the people, with all their souls and spirits throughout all regions. Verily, thou beholdest them weeping at the misfortunes of every one of thy creatures, and becoming grieved at the distress of thy children. They are kind to all the people, and pained at the sight of the calamities of the inhabitants of the world. O my Lord, make the wings of prosperity to grow upon their shoulders, so that they may ever soar toward the apex of their aspirations. Strengthen their loins in the service of thy people, and confirm them in the thraldom and adoration of the threshold of thy holiness. Verily, thou art the merciful, thou art the clement, and there is no God but thee, the powerful, the compassionate, the ancient. And that is from Abdu'l-Baha, Tablets of Abdu'l-Baha, page 568. Here's another quote from Abdu'l-Baha. The more difficulties one sees in the world, the more perfect one becomes. The more you plow and dig the ground, the more fertile it becomes. The more you cut the branches of a tree, the higher and stronger it grows. The more you put the gold in the fire, the purer it becomes. The more you sharpen the steel by grinding, the better it cuts. Therefore, the more sorrows one sees, the more perfect one becomes. That is why in all times the prophets of God have had tribulations and difficulties to withstand. The more often the captain of a ship is in the tempest and difficult sailing, the greater his knowledge becomes. Therefore, I am happy that you have had great tribulations and difficulties. For this I am very happy, that you have had many sorrows. Strange it is that I love you, and still I am happy that you have sorrows. I'm going to move on now to our study of the Book of Certitude, the Kitáb-Í-Iqán by Bahá'u'lláh, and see what he has to say. I'm starting on page 35. And now, O seeker, it behooveth us firmly to cling unto the Urvatul Vuthka. I think that means the sure handle. He's talking about the manifestation of God who brings the teachings for the days in which we live. That perchance we may leave behind the darksome night of error and embrace the dawning light of divine guidance. Shall we not flee from the face of denial and seek the sheltering shadow of certitude? Shall we not free ourselves from the horror of satanic gloom and hasten towards the rising light of the heavenly beauty? In such wise we bestow upon you the fruit of the tree of divine knowledge, that ye may gladly and joyously abide in the Rizvan, or paradise, of divine wisdom. Now he's going to go on and he's about to talk a little bit about the spiritual meanings of some of these prophecies in the sacred books that people have ignorantly interpreted literally and have caused so much harm to the cause of religion by spreading such ignorance and fanaticism. He's going to talk about the real meanings of some of these words. And what I've found is that after studying this book in which he talks about these things, it has become much easier for me to understand some of the spiritual meanings of the fantastical metaphors. In another sense, by the terms sun, moon, and stars, where it says in the Bible that the sun and the moon, the sun will not give its light, and the moon will turn to blood, and the stars will fall upon the earth, and so forth, are meant such laws and teachings as have been established and proclaimed in every dispensation, such as the laws of prayer and fasting. These have, according to the law of Quran, been regarded when the beauty of the Prophet Muhammad had passed beyond the veil as the most fundamental and binding laws of his dispensation. So he's saying that after the death of Muhammad, some of the laws that he instilled, such as laws of prayer and fasting, were considered to be the most fundamental laws. To this testify the texts of the traditions and chronicles, which on account of their being widely known need not be referred to here. So he's talking more to the Muslims here. Nay, rather, in every dispensation, the law concerning prayer hath been emphasized and universally enforced. To this testify the recorded traditions ascribed to the lights that have emanated from the day star of truth, the essence of the Prophet Muhammad. So he's saying that the Prophet Muhammad has said that in every dispensation, the laws of prayer and fasting have been very important. The traditions establish the fact that in all dispensations, the law of prayer hath constituted a fundamental element of the revelation of all the prophets of God. A law, the form and the manner of which hath been adapted to the varying requirements of every age. So he's saying every founder of any world religion has emphasized prayer, but the type of prayer has been geared to the times and the culture in which he appeared. Inasmuch as every subsequent revelation hath abolished the manners, habits, and teachings that have been clearly, specifically, and firmly established by the former dispensation, these have accordingly been symbolically expressed in terms of sun and moon, that he might, and then he has a quote from the Quran, that he, meaning God, might prove you which of you excel in deeds. In other words, every time a messenger of God appears, he abrogates the former laws regarding prayer. And that's a test for humanity. It's a test for the purity of our hearts. Can we see the essence of the message, even though it might be changed or clothed slightly differently? Moreover, in the traditions, the terms sun and moon have been applied to prayer and fasting, even as it is said, and I guess this is a Muslim tradition, fasting is illumination, prayer is light. Now he's going to tell us a story. One day, a well-known divine, that means leader of religion, came to visit us. While we were conversing with him, he referred to the above-quoted tradition, fasting is illumination, prayer is light. He said, inasmuch as fasting causeth the heat of the body to increase, it hath therefore been likened unto the light of the sun. And as the prayer of the night season refresheth man, it hath been compared unto the radiance of the moon. Thereupon, we realized that that poor man had not been favored with a single drop of the ocean of true understanding, and hath strayed far from the burning bush of divine wisdom. We then politely observed to him, saying, the interpretation your honor hath given to this tradition is the one current amongst the people. Could it not be interpreted differently? He asked us, what could it be? We made reply, Mohammed, the seal of the prophets and the most distinguished of God's chosen ones, hath likened the dispensation of the Quran unto heaven, by reason of its loftiness, its paramount influence, its majesty, and the fact that it comprehendeth all religions. And as the sun and moon constitute the brightest and most prominent luminaries in the heavens, similarly in the heaven of religion of God, two shining orbs have been ordained, fasting and prayer. Islam is heaven. Fasting is its sun. Prayer is its moon. That's pretty interesting. So this man, this leader of religion, priest or whatever he was, imam, came to Baha'u'lláh and he said, let's see. He referred to this tradition, fasting is illumination, prayer is light. And he said, well, he thinks the reason fasting is illumination is because it increases the heat of the body. Actually, I get cold when I fast. But anyway, this is what he said. And that's why it's compared to the sun. And the moon of prayer refreshes the spirit. And Baha'u'lláh said, well, what you're sharing is what people think it means. But do you think it could have another meaning? And so the guy said, well, what do you think it is? And Baha'u'lláh said, well, the revelation of Muhammad's revelation in the Quran has been likened by Muhammad to heaven. Because if during that time you followed those teachings of Muhammad, you attained to the well-being of your soul and to the good pleasure of God. And your life got better because you were living a better life. And he's saying that if Islam is heaven, then fasting is its sun and prayer is its moon. This is the purpose underlying the symbolic words of the manifestations of God. Consequently, the application of the terms sun and moon to the things already mentioned have been demonstrated and justified by the text of the sacred verses and the recorded traditions. Hence it is clear and manifest that by the words, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, which I think is from the Bible, is intended the waywardness of the divines and the annulment of laws firmly established by divine revelation, all of which in symbolic language have been foreshadowed by the manifestation of God. None except the righteous shall partake of this cup. None but the godly can share therein. And then he has another quote from the Quran. The righteous shall drink of a cup tempered at the camphor fountain. Which I can't say that I understand. Although I think camphor is an attracting fragrance to some insects. He says, which in symbolic language have been foreshadowed by the manifestations of God. So the messengers of God know that there's going to come a time when their own teachings, their own revelation is going to become darkened because of what people do with it. And that's why they're talking about the sun becoming darkened and the moon not giving its light and the stars falling from heaven, because they see that that will happen. And it is happening. It has happened. Let's see. Okay, I am going to stop there. We'll continue next time where we're leaving off. And I would like to end with a prayer. Anybody got a prayer they want to end with? If you do, let me know. Here's a prayer by the Bab. I seek patience only in God. Verily, He is the best protector and the best helper. No refuge do I seek save God. Verily, He is the guardian and the best supporter. I swear by the glory of God, my Lord, the most exalted, the most great. He assuredly, as is divinely ordained, will make His cause shine resplendent, while there will be no helper for the unjust. Verily, I seek patience only in God, and Him do I regard as the goal of my desire. That's from the Bab. Thank you for joining me.